So today in Eretz Yisrael was far more than a meaningful day. One could say a historic day. And we had a Levaya, one that we never had before, I doubt ever. And we very much hope we will never have again. And it is unlikely that we'll ever have one again. There were more than 500,000 people. And Baruch Hashem, ein tzvacha b'rachoi v'yiseinu, passed without any major chas v'sholem tragedy. And it's just amazing how Klal Yisrael felt towards Reb Chaim. And this is so remarkable because Reb Chaim wasn't a man of many words. He never spoke in public. He wasn't an inspiring speaker. He never, ever spoke in public. He wasn't a great Maggid Shia. He wasn't known as a Maggid Shia. And he wasn't a great communicator. I think almost everybody listening to me had the schus, the privilege of visiting Reb Chaim in his home. If you spent 3 minutes with him, it was a lot. And everybody loved him. Everybody admired him. He was the most revered gadol of our time. How do we understand this? I think it defies explanation. Only that we all felt this is the Torah in its very embodiment. This is the Torah itself. In recent years, Reb Chaim's classical Toyar, his title was Sarah Torah. And most times we used exaggerated titles, but this title was so fitting and so poshut. He was the Sarah Torah. He was an unbelievable sage, an unbelievable Goen. Kol HaTorah Kula at his fingertips. He was the greatest masmid, the greatest shakten of our time. 94 years, like posuk Puma Megeres. There's an amazing definition in Sefer HaKona. Sefer HaKona is a Sefer Kodum. And there are different opinions what period it was written. Either the Tanoim, the days of Ameroim, some say the early Geonim, and it's on the mitzvahs. And a mitzvahs Talmud Torah, there's an amazing definition. Ezehu Talmud Chacham. Who is defined as a Talmud Chacham? Sefer HaKona says it's not the one that knows Kule Matnitan Shishasidra Mishnah to Sefta Sefrosa free. That is not enough. Ad Shetehei Nafshoi Kshuro Benefesh Nafshoi Kshuro Benefesh HaTorah. What an amazing Hagdorah. Anybody that saw Reb Chaim, anybody that knew Reb Chaim, in as much as one could know Reb Chaim, it was so obvious. Nafshoi Kshuro Benefesh HaTorah. He breathed the Torah. Torah was the oxygen. Torah was what he was. His dveikus in Torah was beyond understanding. Like Pusik Pum Megeres. And he was a Boki Nifla. And he was a Anvesan Ushval Berach. I had an unbelievable relationship with Rabbi Leib Steinman, Zechat Tzadik V'Kodesh Lovrocha. I had an unbelievable relationship with my Rabbi, with the great Kanievsky Rabbi. And I had a relationship with most of the Gedolim of our time. I can't say I knew Reb Chaim. When you visited him, it was very short. Today I looked at pictures that I have with Reb Chaim, and all of them, he has such a beautiful smile. I don't know whether he was happy to see me, or I just happened to be there when he was happy. It's hard for me to say I knew Reb Chaim. I looked at him. I sat right next to him, but I looked at him from a distance, like you're looking up at a huge mountain. A towering figure of Torah, of Yediyas Torah, of Asmodas Torah, and of another. There's a member in my shul that grew up in Bnei Barak. He's about my age, and he remembers that there were kids in Cheder, and they used to bet one another who could catch a Chaim with a Mamar Chazal. And they used to go from shul, and they made believe as if they forgot a Gemara. And every day they just opened up a Gemara somewhere in Zlocham and Menoch and some Chodesh and Bovnitzi and Eruvin, and just took out a line from the Gemara and asked the Chaim, where does it say this? Where does it say that? And never once didn't he have the Gemara on the daf. The Reb Chaim was a Shlit, the Kol HaTorah Kulo. He was a Masmid, and he was a Ish Kodesh. In recent years, as you all know, he stopped saying Brocha V'Atzlocha, and to most people he just said Buha. I think it was a reflection of two parts of his personality. One, time, Hasmoda. Tzlocha and another few words and saying Buha. It's 2 seconds. 2 seconds. But if you have 300 people waiting in line, 300 times 2 seconds to Reb Chaim was a lot of time. Every minute to Reb Chaim was a lot of time. Every minute was a oyster of Torah. And I think it was also a reflection of his sense of humor, because he had an amazing sense of humor and he was very sharp. And he loved a good vertel, and that's was the way he communicated with people. So people loved Reb Chaim. People looked at him with yiras hakavod and with tremendous ahava on the other, because we all love Torah, and Reb Chaim was like a chefza of Torah. He was the Torah itself and the beautiful midas of Torah. All his life, he ran away from politics. My late father, Zecher Tzadik Levrocha, used to say a vertel. Chazal say, Kol haboreach min hagedula rodefes Harav. Kol haroidef acharei hagedula borachas mimeno. People usually use the term Kol haboreach achar hakoved, but in Chazal it's Kol haboreach min hagedula. And my late father used to ask, so they're both running, they're both chasing. What's the difference between one and the other? The difference was when you become old and you no longer have koyach to run. You can no longer run fast. So when the person is boreach min hagedula, v'hagedula rodefes acharav, the older you get, the gedula finally catches up with you. If you're roidef acharei hagedula, get older, you can no longer run, and you look in frustration. The gedula, the kavod you're chasing, becomes farther and farther away. Reb Chaim all his life tried to avoid politics, tried to avoid the hanaga. Just give him his Gemara, give him his Shas, and he's the happiest person in the world. But Klal Yisrael needed a manig. So in his elderly years, finally caught up with him. And thousands of people just stood waiting for his bracha, waiting for his eitzah, and he was a ish kadosh. And it was obvious that his brachas have an effect. And so many people saw Yeshua's Beis Bochu Mipiv. So it's a tremendous loss for Klal Yisrael. So Reb Chaim was 94 years old. And as people say, nobody lives forever. But Chazal I think when the Beis Mikdash was destroyed, nobody asked, how old was this building? 420 years. Well, very few buildings stand 400 years. A building can't stand forever. Nobody asked that silly question because the Beis Mikdash is not a building. It's not just a building. It's a Mishkan Hashem. We expect the Beis Mikdash to stand forever. Yes, we know that Gedolim are human. And even Gedolim don't live forever. But from our point of view, we wish they would live forever. And as old as they might be, it's always painful. It's always feeling a tremendous loss. And of the Chavrashbam, that simple Poshet home on the second floor was a Teil Talpiris. Einei Kol Yisrael. From all the continents and different countries in the world. Einei Kol Yisrael Nesuais. So that little street in Bnei Brak Chavrashbam. And that is no longer. So it's a tremendous loss. The Kol Beis Yisrael Yisrael is the Sleifa Shesoraf Hashem, and we all would cherish those memories, those fleeting moments that we spent in the presence of the Gadol Ador, the presence of a towering giant of Torah and Avodah. Should be a Melech Yoshe for us all.